Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is our day 19 of Python programming playlist, and this is part 2 of functions. So args and kw args. Args, parameters that are passed with star, which makes you able to pass as many arguments as you want in a function. And keyword args are keyword arguments, makes you able to pass key value pair as an argument to your function. This concept can be very useful in some scenarios where there is a need to pass more than one argument, or there are need to pass a lot of arguments in your function at once. So there, these args and kw args can be a very useful concept which we are going to cover today. So without any ado, let's get started and let's study about functions. So here we are in our computer, and today we are going to cover functions part 2. Today we are going to learn about arguments, keyword arguments in functions, and default values in functions. So open Visual Studio Code. So here I have this code from my previous video. If you haven't watched it yet, then you can find the link in the I button now, and if you haven't accessed my Python programming playlist, then you can find the link in the description below. Okay, so with that said, let's continue. So now, up to now, we passed two values in here. But what if someone wants to add a lot of numbers? He has a list of, let's say, 100 numbers. Then what can he do? So for that, we have arguments, okay, in functions. Okay, many times they are also called as X arguments. Okay, so just like that. So let us create a function first. So I will define a function, let's say add, and here in here let us create args. Okay, so we will give a star and we will say numbers. So this function will now take input of multiple numbers, so there is no limit that how many numbers can be provided. You can provide 10 numbers, you can provide 20 numbers, as much as you want. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we will simply print first of all. So this will it will do is basically it will give us list of numbers. So let me print it and let me call this function add, and here I will pass 1 2 3 and 4 and let's say 5. Okay, so or 4. Okay, so we have these numbers. Let us run our code, and as you can see we get this tuple of these numbers. So not a list, basically we got a tuple of these 4 numbers. So now how can we add them? That is the question. So for that we need to iterate over it. So I will use for loop. So I will say for number in numbers, and what we want to do is we will say total. So our total is a supportive variable which will increase. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to add this number to it, and our total in here. Okay, so our total is initially 0. So now what will happen is, let me just print this total here instead of this number. So now here what is happening is we are providing multiple values to this add function, and initially the total is 0 on line number 2, as you can see. So now when we use this loop here, so what we are doing is we are accessing one element for each iteration from numbers. Okay, so for first we are accessing this 1, then we are adding 1 to our total. So our total was 0, now our total is 1. Then we are again going here because the loop is not ended yet. Then we are adding one more number. So now we have two numbers, this number 2, and our total is 1 now. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Now our total is 3, and we will again execute this loop, and now our number is 3 and total is 3 as well, so 6, and then for next iteration 10. So just like that this loop will execute and we will get 10 at the end. So let us run our code, and as you can see we get 10 here. So just like that you can pass many numbers here. Now you can pass a lot of numbers here like this, and simply you can run this code and you can get the output. Okay, so just like that you can add simply you can do this, say you can do the same for multiplication just by doing this multiply, and this total should not be 0, because if the total is 0 then everything will be 0, because 0 multiplied by any number gives you 0. So that's why if the total is 0 here on line number 2, our loop will execute and we will get 0 at the end. So simply let us change this to multiply, and similarly from here let us change this to multiply, and let us simply do this for 1, 2 and 3. So we should get 6 here. Let us run our code, and as you can see we have this 6 here printed on the terminal. So just like that we can pass these numbers, like these arguments, with using this syntax. So give a star and then this is our parameter. Now let me clear this code, let me delete this code, or let me comment this code. Now what we are going to do, is we will create another function. So let us create another function. So let us define another function, let's say data. So we have this data function, and in here we will give 2 stars and data, okay, or let us say bio. We have this bio named function, and in here we are getting some data in keyword arguments, okay. And now in here we are simply printing this data, okay. So what we are doing is we are saying for, let me just delete it, so for key and value, okay, in data. So key and value in data dot items, sorry, because we are providing a key value pair here. So I will explain this to you just a minute. So let me just print this data here for a minute. So data, and now let us create this bio, and in here I will pass first name, or let's say name is equals to, let's say name is, then let's say occupation is equal to, let's say height is height is equal to. So if we have this type of data in here, so what we are doing is we are passing key and a value in here. Now let us run it, and as you can see we are getting a dictionary of this data. So now we have learned in our dictionaries video. If you haven't watched it, then you can find the link of that video here now in the I button, okay. So we learned that we can get the items with using this dot items method, and now if I will run it, as you can see we get these items. Each item is a tuple. So just like that we can get the items, and we have also learned that we can destructure a tuple, okay, with using like or we can access the elements of these tuples with using like this. So 1 and 2 is equal to, let's say data dot items, okay. So if I will do this, then this 1 and 2, these both values can these key and value will be stored in this 1 and 2 variables. So the name will be stored in key here, and this Vedant will be stored in this value here. So just like that we can access elements, or we can destructure our tuple. So let us uncomment this, and let us simply print our key and our value, okay. So we are simply printing our key and value in here. So now if I will run it, you can see name, occupation and height, and if I will pass an f string here, okay. So let me pass a f string here. So now we have this f string where key, and here we will pass the value, and we don't want this comma now. So now you can see that our output will look much more cleaner, and as you can see here we have this name, occupation and student. So just like that we can use this type of data. We can provide keyword arguments in this function if we use these 2 stars and data, and we can use and we can provide a lot of elements or lot of numbers or a lot of arguments with using this single star, okay. So basically what args and KW args are, that means keyword args. So basically args are a lot of, you can provide a lot of data. Basically you can provide multiple parameters or multiple arguments to a function, and then you can access that you can access those arguments with using for loop, and you can do whatever you want to do with it. And in this keyword arguments, what you do is you pass keyword and a value, so a key and value, a key and value, this type of data, and then you can access them with using destructuring of those items and using for loop on them. So just like that, this is the basic difference in those two methods or these two approaches. So basically we have learned now that how we can use numbers and how we can, so sorry, basically we learned how we can use arguments and keyword arguments in our functions. So let me delete all this code. Now if I have a function, let's say if I have a function greet, and this function basically greets a user, and this name here, if I want this name to be optional, then what I can do is I can simply set this name is equal to user for this instance. Okay, so this name is user now. Okay, and now in here we can simply print this f string which says hello, the hello and name. Okay, so this name will be in brackets. Okay, so now if I will call this greet function, and if I won't provide any arguments to it, you can see it says hello user. But now if I will pass, let's say John here, a name here, then you can see this output that it says hello John. So what is happening here is we are giving a default value to this parameter name, and while calling our function we are providing an argument which is overwriting the value of this name, and that's why we are seeing this output. Okay, so just like that you can set a default value in your functions, and just like that you can create arguments, you can pass the arguments in your function, you can pass keyword arguments in functions. So with that we have completed the part 2 of our video, and thank you for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video.